Cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining tonight. So tonight we're going to be talking and actually doing like this is one of those that have a bit more of a practical slant to it. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be exploring the world of local first, and Dominic is going to kind of take us through some practical steps and examples and stuff that he has prepared. But yeah, like I'm gonna hang around in the beginning a bit. I unfortunately can't stay for the entire session. Justin's going to kind of mostly be running the show. So yeah, Justin, I'm then happy to hand over to you and have you do the actual intros and introduce Dominic, and I think then we can take it from there. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Skulk. Yeah, welcome everyone. This is our sure. We seem to have been doing a lot of events lately, Skulk. Yeah, we're very happy to be joined by Dominic, returning guest, returning champion, doing his second talk for us today. And yeah, just a little bit about us. If it's your first time, we are FEDSA. We recently rebranded with ZAPD, so we are now what are we called? Front-end Engineering and Design South Africa. So
that's the one. Name.
Same name, same acronym, but a slightly different meaning. So we've incorporated the design aspect of what we do in this as well. Just quickly to say, we've got some sponsors for these, which is NML and IO, both software development companies in South Africa, both based in Cape Town. So we're grateful to them for the monthly sponsorship we get from that. It allows us to keep these things going. Yeah, so without further ado, I'll hand over to Dominic, who's going to be talking to us this evening. And I commented in the chat. Please, you can leave any questions there on the YouTube stream, or if you're watching on LinkedIn as well, they do come through to us in the studio here, and we'll answer the questions as we go along at the end. Yeah, thanks. Dominic, over to you.
Thanks, and thanks, Skulk and Justin, for letting me be on the FEDSA live stream. Appreciate it. So today, the idea is that we are going to do a workshop on local first development. So first, I'm going to start off with just a quick slideshow presentation, just to give everyone an idea of what I'm talking about. And then we'll move on to an actual practical example of using a local first app that I've set up. So you'll need a NPM for this. I hopefully assume everyone has that. And then we'll be using PowerSync and Supabase as the backend database. And yeah, let us begin. So let me present. Oh, sorry, guys. Screen. And okay, let's allow my screen, and I want to share the screen. Yes. Okay. Let me just share my presentation. Okay. Everyone can see the presentation? I can't see anything, so I just want to.
Yeah. No, we can see.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We can see perfectly.
Thank you. So yeah, local first workshop. So first, who am I? So I'm a 31-year-old Cape Townian, software engineer. I'm actually a product engineer. I work on the PowerSync product, and what I really care about is a great user experience. And I think hopefully when you get through with this, you'll see the value in local first and how that can enhance a user's experience. So currently in a traditional architecture, you have your mobile device or website or user app, watch, TV, and what it does is it sends and receives data from a backend database, a backend system that is connected to some form of database or data store. And you do this through normal API calls. And what happens is you make the API call and there's some kind of loading state that happens. And this isn't ideal for all use cases, especially if someone goes offline, you're waiting forever, and then, someone keeps reloading and you run into issues from a user perspective. So that's what brought about this whole idea of local first. And I'll give you two different architectures. So here's one. So Instead, what happens now is you have your mobile device or website, whatever, it links to a local storage device. So you could think of that as like a local storage database. So, for example, SQLite or just normal key value storage, anything like that. And then what it will do is it will then sync to the sync service. So a new service, a sync service, and that sync service will handle keeping the backend database up to date. So for a user, it's real-time interaction. And, because they're uploading to a local data store. So everything feels real-time. There's no actual loading. That's all being handled in the background by the sync service. And in this case, what happens is the sync service handles uploads and downloads. A slight issue with this is that what that means is that the sync service has write access to a database, which could lead to security issues or you not being able to choose how to deal with write conflicts. So you taking their opinionated approach to dealing with write conflicts in this architecture. And here's another architecture where you have the same mobile device, you have the same local storage, and the sync system and the backend database with the backend application. But instead, now what happens is the sync service, you will, from the device, upload directly to the database, or your backend, and then make changes to the database. And the reason you'd want to do this is so that you can handle conflict resolution on your backend service. And it means that the sync service doesn't need write access to your database. And then it will receive all the changes to the database and stream all of that information down to your device. So in the talk today, we are going to look at this kind of architecture. So this is where Supabase comes in. So Supabase is that backend database. And what's really cool with Supabase is it actually gives you an API. So you don't actually need a backend service at all. You just use the Supabase API to interact with the database. And we'll use PowerSync for the syncing service. So I'm just wondering if there's any questions at the moment.
I have a ton. How quickly want to get into the practical stuff? Because I can keep you here all night.
Okay, maybe we go into the practical, and then things might become clearer as we go. Okay, cool. So I guess I've never done this not live, so I've done this usually in person. So please bear with me if I'm going too quickly or anything like that. So the first thing we want to do is I'm just going to share this in the chat. I think
for what it's worth, there will be a recording, so people can rewatch it. If you rather go too fast and then people can rewatch than not cover everything. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we'll cover everything. I try to make it as little side-by-side coding as possible. So yeah, we're going to need to download this GitHub repo. So I'll share this. I'll just share it in the comments. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you can give it to me. I will share it because by default it doesn't make links clickable for obvious reasons.
Yeah, so I can do it, Scott, because I'm logged. I can do it. I'm logged into FEDSA.
I've already done it. Too slow, Joe.
So yeah, the first thing to do is to clone the repo. So I'm going to do that now. Yeah.
I'm actually going to follow along on my side, and then I'll ask questions as I go.
Okay, great. So I'll show you what I'm doing. So just git clone. It's going to go into the repo. And so for this, there's, I would say, 3 parts to this. So in part A, we're going to look at local first and why it's local first. And then we'll link it all to Supabase and PowerSync later on. So yeah, just get the repo, and I'm just going to open it up in my IDE. Let's open that on the big screen. You can see the big screen, right? You can see my IDE. No, okay, then I can't make it big. So do this. Okay. And
I'm not seeing a shared screen.
oh, I need to present again. Sorry.
If you want, I can also, like, you can just instruct me. I can also just like share my side, but
There we go.
okay, never mind. There we go.
Yeah, don't worry about this. This is not important. So then you just need to run npm install. So this will probably go quicker for me than for you guys because mine, I've run this a few times in preparation. So I think it's got a lot of cache dependencies.
Local first.
And then what you want to do is you just want to run dev. I'll go through the repo just now. I just want to rather just give you guys an idea of the app.
I assume it's just a regular Vite, like React.
Yes, it's React.
It?
I went with React just because I feel like most people know React, and but you can use this in React Native, Flutter. Yeah, there's like a few different examples you can use. This is just for ease. Okay, so I've got that running. I should have it running. Oh, this is why. Okay, so this is a very basic to-do list app. As you can see here, it's not connected to anything. We don't actually log in, so there's no authentication currently. We will get to that. But what you can do is you can add to-dos. So I'm just going to add a to-do. And so this is a list, and I can add to-dos in that to-do list. So new and another one.
That's some nice material UI there.
Yeah.
I could see it from a mile away.
Yeah. And so this is a local first app in the sense of it's storing all this information on a local storage facility. So in this case, we're using IndexedDB, and that's, you could think of it as like a SQLite database. And so I'll show you here. Oh, and why this is really cool is if I click refresh, this is still there. So you don't lose any of that data. It's all on device. So I just want to show you where it is. And so in IndexedDB, this is the database. It's really cool that IndexedDB exists and you can do this. What's not so cool is you can't actually see what any of the elements are. So that's where we just added a SQL console. So so you can actually look at the database. And so here you can see the to-do, and then if I wanted to change it, I could see the to-dos. And yeah, we currently don't have like a user because we're not authenticated. So just user ID not found. And yeah, so that's what kind of makes this really nice, is that even though I'm not connected to anything, this app still works. So to a user, they would think, wow, everything's working, it's super fast, everything's great. I can also delete. Yeah. So
so that SQL that you just showed, does that run it against the IndexedDB?
Yes. So this is on the actual device.
Okay. So yeah, obviously, so IndexedDB has a different like interface. Like obviously, it doesn't accept SQL and so forth. So does it convert it to IndexedDB queries?
So maybe let me just go into the code because I think that might make things a bit easier.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm curious because I actually do a lot of work with IndexedDB.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're using here is there's three main packages to make this work. So the first is WA SQLite, and that's actually what interfaces with the IndexedDB.
Okay, so it uses WebAssembly, I assume that's what the WA is.
Yeah,
okay.
WA is WebAssembly. And so
that's amazing.
We've forked that and just added a few things to optimize it for our use case. And then we have the web. So PowerSync Web is what creates the database. So it uses WA SQLite under the hood, and then it makes the database in a nicer format. So I can actually show you here.
Yeah, I assume like in the client side, because obviously IndexedDB is async. So it takes a while for the data to come back. So you still need a client. You need it in memory.
Yes. So here is the PowerSync database. So this is where we actually set it up. So the example DB, that's where we set the name, and you define the app schema. So that's why it knows about, the different columns that you have. You set it all there. You can add an index. You can actually make this a local first table as well. So you could, where you don't actually sync this information up at all. But yeah, that will be for later. I don't want to complicate things now. So yeah, this creates the lists, and then it sends that into our database to then create the tables in the IndexedDB. And yeah, so let me actually maybe just give just an overview of this. So what's going on is we're creating the database, and then we're providing it. I don't want to go too deep into React, but we're initializing the database. We're just adding this to the window so you can use it. You can actually query things in the console, and yeah, we're just passing that through. And then, so this is full text search. I left this in just as like so that people who are maybe more advanced with SQL or SQLite know that you can actually use full text search or even enable other particular things related to SQLite. So what full text search allows us to do in the app is it gives us the search bar. So if I had, let's just say, blur, I can actually just search, and there it is. Now I'm in my blur. So yeah, that's what full text search allowed us. And then the rest of the app is actually quite a standard React app. So we have widgets, which are just the components, navigation, and just pages here. So auth will come later, and there's a SQL console, there's a to-do list, and then layout. Nothing really special going on in there. And yeah, let me just open my notes here.
Sorry, can you
yeah.
maybe just zoom in a little bit? So obviously I
sorry,
have a
sorry.
pretty big screen, but I am concerned about people that are, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always forget that. Yeah, I think that's better.
Yeah. Just also going to move the, yeah. Okay, cool.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
and then just one more thing that I wanted to show that I think especially React users will like is there's a use query hook that you can use to actually run the queries. So in this case, it's SQL. So you'll have to, well, if you're using it like this, you'll use SQL queries directly in the code. We do have support for ORMs. Well, an ORM, well, it's really a query builder. It's Keysly, but we are looking at extending it to more ORMs so that you may not need, so that you won't need to use SQL directly. But currently, this is how we're using it in the app.
So would that be like, for example, like Drizzle or so forth?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we're actually looking at Drizzle, if I'm not mistaken, at the moment. So yeah,
okay. Awesome. That would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, because it can be a bit scary, especially for front-end devs. Seeing SQL, it's like, I'm not a back-end dev, but why am I doing SQL queries?
No, and also you don't. I assume that's just a string template, so you don't get any like auto completion or validation or type safety or anything.
Exactly. Great. So yeah, that's kind of the overview of the app. And now we are going to. I just want to check in, I guess, if everyone is aligned, understands what's going on, because now we're going to go into actually signing up and all of that, which will bring us to the next stage. So yeah, if there's any questions.
No, it doesn't seem that way. Like as mentioned, I have a ton. So once I start going, like you're gonna regret it. But no, go ahead. I'm super curious. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, let's. We're gonna have to sign up to PowerSync. I mean, PowerSync and Supabase. So I'm just gonna go through that. Sorry, I was already logged in, so let me just log out and create a new account completely. Okay, so all of this is free, so don't worry. There's nothing you need to pay for. I'm just gonna sign up. Cool. So I'll just do Dom plus. Let's just make it 100. That's let's just use Just gonna make this
Yeah.
a pic. I know I shared that, but it's fine because I'm gonna delete this account anyways.
If someone wants to hack it, like, go wild.
Yeah, it's just a free account anyways. Cool. So then I'll just go here to my local just to check the email. I'm just looking at the email. Don't want to expose that to everyone. And then I'm just confirming my email address. So for anyone that doesn't know what Supabase is, it's an open source Firebase. And what that is it's just a Postgres database that that has a nice API and is actually really, it's a nice way to interact with the database. And I'll show you that now. I'm just busy.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Supabase. I even have like on my phone here, I have a Supabase sticker there that my daughter put on there. Yeah, like I'm a big fan of Supabase, and like the way I tend to explain it is that it's, as you mentioned, they, like, I know Thor and some of the guys at Supabase, and they hate it when people say, oh, it's like Firebase but open source. But that's kind of like the niche they've carved for themselves. So you made that bet, you have to lie in it now. But like the way I explain it usually to my students and stuff is that like, because it's all open source, like you can put all these pieces together on your own if you want. You can even self-host it.
Yes.
Whereas with obviously Google, like, or Firebase, there's so much proprietary stuff there. Like you're not even allowed to know what's under the hood. So this is one of the benefits of Supabase. So it's also, because it's Postgres, like it's also really nice if you want to migrate away from it or whatever. You can literally just pop all of that data on your own on your own Postgres instance and so forth. So there's a lot less vendor lock-in, which is nice.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's an added benefit that we're seeing now with some people deprecating things, or it's left a lot of people out in the lurch if it's not open source, because then they have to find something new.
Yeah, and I mean, we saw a lot of, like, especially everything that happened with like Planet Scale and so forth, and like where free tier isn't free anymore. So like, yeah, it's a good place to be, to have your kind of stack be built on open source stuff. Yeah.
Oh wow! It really thinks, what is this?
That is like that thing is so like so many anti AI mechanisms built into that. Like, oh
wow! Sorry guys,
wow.
it obviously thinks some kind of
AI.
bot.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
I love that it has toasters. Obviously, AI would go for the toaster.
Yeah, of course.
My brother. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just creating an organization now that I've logged in, and so I'll just select that. Just call it this project, and okay. So this is really important. Just remember your database password. I'm just going to generate one, and I'm just going to copy it, and I'm just going to store it locally so that I have it for reference. But you're going to need it, so just keep it, because we're going to need it when we connect the database. Cool. Now I'm going to create, you can just choose whichever you want. So what Supabase is doing is it's now going to create a small Postgres database for us. And so while that's setting up, we should go to PowerSync. So PowerSync.com. And in PowerSync, if you can share that in the chat, that would be great. So then what we want to do, get started. Okay, sign in. If you see anything related to Journey Apps is the holding company of PowerSync. So don't be afraid. Let's go.
Yeah, I actually know your boss quite well.
Oh.
I know Conrad actually quite well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Small world, eh? That's what I've realized.
Yeah, he's actually a family friend. We used to build websites like back in high school together.
Oh,
Back
wow.
in like .NET Nuke and all those things. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just verifying my email. So I'm just waiting for it to come. Oh man, you know what I did? I used the wrong email. Sorry. Sorry. Here we go. I need to use my personal email because because of our Journey apps emails are linked to kind of an admin dashboard. It makes things more complicated. So that's why I'm using my personal email for this one.
Yeah, you're a brave man putting your personal email on a live stream. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Rookie error.
Yeah. Rest in peace, your inbox. Marketing emails. There we go.
So yeah, so let's call it project, and we'll just use a password. This is gonna need a big one. If we need it. I'm just going to show that. It's fine. I'm going to delete this after this anyways. Okay, accept next. Oh, maybe that. No, interesting. Obviously, when you live demoing, this happens. Let's do that again. Okay, I don't know why that is happening. Let's. Might be because I changed the tab when I went through the email. I think that's the problem. Okay. Sorry
I can try
about
on
that.
my side if that would help.
Yeah. Do you want to just take over?
Well, like, so you couldn't get it to work.
Well, I just need to do it again, I think.
Okay.
Let me just try again.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
give it one more try. If
Let's
it gives issues, I'm happy to just try it on my side and share my screen.
Okay, let's do this. Okay. Finishing up account. Okay, I'm just setting up my account on just a different screen because I just want to see. No, it's. Were you able to sign up? I don't know what's going
Try.
on.
Okay, so let me just share my screen and.
Yeah, let me just stop sharing.
Okay, and yeah. Okay, cool. Let's go. So PowerSync.
Yeah, PowerSync.com.
Yes. Okay, and then get started, I assume.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm just going to use my GitHub. No one's getting my. I still need to enter my email. Let me just do that off screen quickly. I actually joined the Discord while you were sharing your screen. So let me just.
Oh, yeah, that's a great place. We're very active on there, just as an
Cool.
FYI.
Cool. Just give me a second. Oh, okay. It's been ages since I had to type in my. Yes, all right. Okay, this part you can see. Like, let me just confirm this. Luckily, no one has access to my phone right now, so just give me a second. Where is... Oh, here we go. And there we go. All right. Yes. Okay, so I'm just signing in with GitHub.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, great. That's working.
Okay, you tell me what to do.
Okay, so
This-
yeah, this is the dashboard. What we are going to need to do is create a new instance. Yeah, just call it whatever you like.
Oh, test example. Okay. All right, and then
You can
region, I
just
guess.
choose.
Okay, and I guess I need to put the Supabase stuff in here.
Yes. So
Okay.
add a connection.
Yeah. Postgres.
Postgres. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And
But like, let
yeah,
me. Should I set up or are you gonna give me your Supabase stuff?
oh yeah,
or...
I'll just give my.
Okay.
Yeah, I might as well give you mine. Okay.
Okay.
So
yeah, it's probably going to be you. You're not going to read it to me. Maybe just pop it
I'll
quickly
send
in
it on the
chat.
chat. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just go get that information.
Mm-hmm.
Database. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can add that link just at the bottom right for the URI, and then I will send the password as well.
Okay, so the URI, host. Password, I assume.
Oh, sorry, that instead of host, you can put it in the URI at the bottom right. So you can just copy that into the bottom right.
I see over there.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then it populates all of this. Oh,
Yes.
nice. Okay, cool.
Wait. I think I might have made a mistake, actually. Sorry, because you need to turn off, this is just important for Supabase users. You need to turn off display connection pooler because we use IPv4 and not 6. So sorry, let me just send that to you so that it's correct. We're going to have to
cool. Yeah, I remember you have to do the same if you're using like Prisma or something as well.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised. Sorry, I'm just finding the tab here. Yeah, here's the link.
Cool. Let's give that a try. And I guess your password I should just swap out with what you sent me, right?
Yeah, that password is. Oh no, you don't. I don't think you have to do that if the password's there. But yeah, it's fine.
Okay, cool.
And then test connection. Just to confirm that we can connect. Oh, sorry. That's why I need to. This is the thing. Okay, so can I just share quickly again?
Go for it.
I just want to show just so that everyone has visibility of this. So
I guess you need to create a table specifically for PowerSync. I see.
Well, a publication. So PowerSync reads off of the write-ahead log. So we need access. Yeah. Okay. So if we go to the SQL editor and we go to the code here, you can actually just copy this in. So all of this code, what this does is it creates the tables that are required, and it also creates the publication for the tables.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll just
and
copy
this
that.
is in the repo.
Yeah, this is in the repo.
Okay.
And then you can just run the selected. So this adds all the tables. You'll see this now here, the lists, and then it's created a publication. Cool. So you can take over again. And you're on mute if you're talking.
Sorry. Yes, I just moved it away so it doesn't do the infinite screen. All right. Okay. Test again, I assume.
Yes.
This is okay. Never mind. Oh,
There we go.
so
Okay, great.
just took a while.
And then go to client auth,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just tick use Supabase auth.
Mm.
So
Is
this
that it?
makes it, yeah. Now you can save and deploy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to deploy an instance of the PowerSync service.
Mm-hmm.
And so another thing that's important to know about PowerSync is, just generally with any sync engine, is you don't want everything to sync to all the users all the time.
Yes.
So we use something called sync rules. You can actually click, there's a sync rules.yaml on the below webhooks on the left there. Yes.
Okay.
So this is an example of the sync rules. There's actually sync rules in the repo, which I think might make more sense to use. So in the repo, there's a sync rules.yaml in the repo.
Okay.
If you can just copy that in.
Open it. Okay. So yep. All right. There we go. Like that.
Yes.
And I guess deploy sync rules, right?
Yeah. So we need to wait for the instance to deploy first, and then we'll be able to deploy that.
Okay,
And maybe I'll just go through kind of what's going on, just so it makes sense. So there's two different queries. There's the parameter query and the data query. So the parameter query is who gets what. That's how I like to think of it. And the data query is what do they get. So in this case, we're getting so request is the JWT token, and it has a user ID attached to it. And what we're doing is we're checking which user ID matches the owner ID of the list.
Yeah.
And
this is, just to confirm, this is specific to Supabase, right?
We require all the JWT tokens that interact with our service to follow a standard. So there'll always be a user ID in the JWT token.
Okay. Because I do... Yes, because I do remember, I think if you set your row level security and stuff on Supabase, it looks very much similar to this.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Sorry about that. I haven't looked at that.
Cool.
Yeah. So what that's doing is it's essentially saying that only the lists that belong to that user will be synced to that user.
Okay.
And then in that, we're saying we want all the lists to be synced and all the to-dos to be synced that have that bucket list. Yeah.
Okay.
And now what we're doing is we're deploying that down, and that should
what
take
would be a
minute.
case? What would be a case where you would have more fine-grained control here?
What do you mean exactly?
So obviously, this is kind of like very broad. This is effectively just, like everyone gets everything, right? What would be a case where you would maybe have more complex rules here than something that's straightforward?
So sometimes for join tables. So right now you can't use joins in the way we know joins, and there's only actually two. You can connect two tables at most. I think there's a third that you can do three actually, but you have to do a few things to do that, but there's a limitation in that regard. So what you're then required to do is denormalize your database so that you can reduce the joins, and you can just connect on the actual ID. But yeah, that's some examples. But there's in the docs there's a few different examples where you have many to many relationships and that kind of thing where it can get more complicated.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, I did deploy the sync rules. Oh, wait.
So can you just copy the so in your instance it has an ID that URL is on the right.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can send that to me, and then I can take over because I should have all the information I need on my side now.
Cool. All right, there we go.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thanks for stepping in there. Really appreciate it.
It's like I'm curious myself. Like I said, like I can only stay for the beginning and then I need to go. But yeah, it turns out that's not going to be the case. This is something I'm very kind of like in the kind of lo-fi stuff as well. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add an env file. So you can just do .env.local. And here's just a template of it. So I'm just going to copy that in. And what we need to do now is populate it with the required information. So I'm just going to populate what Skulk sent me, that PowerSync URL that you saw. And I'm just going to populate it with the Supabase information that we had as well. I might as well go like this for now quickly. So I can close that tab. Here we go to project settings and we can go to API. And what I'm doing is I'm copying the project URL. So that's what I'm putting into the Supabase URL. And then for the anonymous key, I'm just copying this here under project API keys and putting that in there. Okay, so now I'm just going to do another run. So let me just make this big again. So yeah, I just kind of added that in and I'm going to do a run again. And then I'm going to go to the URL again. Make this big. And now I'm going to be asked to log in. And because we've set up Supabase auth, we can actually register a user. This is going to give me an error because Supabase has added, so I can't just do this because they're actually checking the email domain. So I'm going to have to just go to Supabase and just make a user myself just because I'm using the wrong domain.
That's something they added very, very recently, and
Yeah.
I don't like, I love Supabase and I love the guys at Supabase, but I don't know why they did that. Like it's like that. I don't know. Like it's the whole point for me was that Supabase is kind of like this plug and play thing, and now you have to set up SMTP. Like literally the worst part. Like if you took one thing that you don't want to do yourself. Like I'd rather spin up a database and set up SMTP, So yeah, it sucks, but I guess it is what it is.
We just need to do a workaround here. So you can actually go to Supabase under authentication, create your own user. So I'm just going to auto confirm that, and that will let me just have this user. And I'm going to create another user just because I want to show you that sync rules won't share information between the different users. So I've got 2 users now. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the application, which is here. So instead of register, I'm going to just go test@test.com. And I'm going to log in. And we should see that connect now. So this actually connects to the PowerSync service. And we can add to-dos. So yeah, let me just actually, while we're here, just go to the database and so you can see this is all happening in real time. So I'm going to add a to-do here. So new list, and let me just add some to-dos in there as well. So to-do 1, to-do 2, mark that one as complete. And now when we go back to lists, you can see the new list is there and the to-dos are there. And if I delete one, it will also sync through to the app. And yeah, so here I only have 1 to-do now. And I can actually just delete that as well. And you'll see it all syncs up pretty instantaneously, which is really cool. And now, oh wait, let me just re-add. This is what I wanted to show actually. So not on other user, let's just call it that. So I'm now going to log out. Oh wait, let me rather make a list instead of adding it. All right, well, we've got this new list there. So I'm going to sign out and I'm going to log in with the other user. So this is a different user and I won't see that. So because of our sync rules, because we've made it so that you only see the list of the list that you own, you don't see actually anything that the other user had. And another point of local first is actually that you can do all of this while offline and then come back online. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn off my internet. So I'm going to go offline and add some to-dos or a list. So new list, let me not call it new list, list from other user. And I'm going to add a to-do, other user to-do, other user to-do. And we won't see any of that come through here. Oh, wait, we do assume. Wait, what just happened? I should have probably kept my network tab. Okay, sorry, that is weird. Okay, let me just go back online. Let me go back to do list. Okay, so let me maybe not go into another tab because I think that caused the issue. So sorry, there's just, when you try to demo this, normally what I would do is actually turn off my Wi-Fi, but then I would stop the stream. So I can't do that. And then let me just try. So now I should be offline. Try. And yeah, that failed, which is good. And we should see in lists that that's not there. So try is not there. And then if I go back and I turn the internet on again, here we go. So I go to no throttling. Now we should see it sync back up. There, we saw the sync there, and we should see try appear. Or not. I think I might have broken something. Oh, wait, sorry. I didn't go back online. Sorry, that's helpful. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, here we go. And there we see try. So that's the power of local first, is that a person could use the app completely offline, and then a week later come back online and all that information would sync up to the database. And let's just look at the code quickly, just because that will help also explain things. So we added a Supabase provider. So this connects to our Supabase instance, essentially. And what's cool with Supabase, like I said earlier, is it gives you an API. So when you uploading things, you can actually upload directly to Supabase. You don't need to upload to a backend service which then updates the database. And that's what's happening here in our Supabase connector. So it connects to the Supabase client. And what you need to do is have these two, let me just take this away actually, is you need to have these two functions. So this extends the PowerSync backend connector. And this is to authenticate. So this is what we use to actually authenticate. You send the token, and the token has the information that we need to the URL. And that's what we use to authenticate you against the service. And then upload data. So this is where I was saying in the presentation that I did, this is where you can decide how you want your conflict resolution to happen. So how it works at the moment.
I have a million questions about that. Because that's always the pain point. Yeah.
Yeah. So as a baseline, it's last write wins. So if you just use this, which is what most users use, I should say. So whichever is the last write. So if, let's say, we had two users' devices, and user 1 wrote, but then user 2 came in and wrote just after them, user 2's result would show, because the last write would win in our scenario. Yeah. And yeah, so this is what you would set up on your own side. So you could change this. So this would upload to the database. In this case, it's just uploading directly to Supabase, but it would upload to your database, and then you would handle on your backend service how you want the config resolution to happen. We could also do it here for Supabase. We could scan the database and check, has a write come from a particular user? Oh no, they take, I don't know.
Yeah. What is the granularity on this? Is it on a row basis, or if two users modify two different cells in a row that don't overlap, would that be considered a conflict or not?
I will have to double check that. I haven't actually. Yeah, I'll have to double check that.
Okay.
But if memory serves correctly, it's you can do it on a row by row.
Okay.
If memory serves, but let me double check that rather to be safe.
Great. Yeah.
And yeah, so you add that, and then that's what uploads the data to Supabase. And yeah, that is actually the presentation that I wanted to do. Don't know if there's any other questions.
Oh, I have a ton. Justin, let me just give you a chance before I go.
Yeah. I'll listen.
Oh, you don't? So, okay.
And I will chime in.
You will add value to my questions. You'll clarify the insanity that is my kind of way of framing a question. So I assume how much of this relies on kind of service workers? Do you know?
So we use web workers.
Okay.
And yeah, so it uses, well, there's an option to not use web workers as well. We've noticed there are some issues with certain browsers. I think Safari in particular.
Safari.
Yeah. But yeah, so we use web workers, but you can kind of opt out of that. And yeah.
Okay, so you're not using service workers, so you're using web workers, so which means it only syncs while the session is active. So it doesn't sync when your browser is closed. Has there been any exploration into getting it to work with a service worker, or kind of any type of I'm curious whether that's something you guys have looked at. Yeah,
I think when it was initially being created, they did look into it. I had just joined the company at that stage, so I don't have the full background into exactly why we went with web workers as opposed to service workers.
Yes. Okay, cool. But so service worker is effectively a superset of a web worker. So yeah, I'd be curious to kind of play around with that a bit and see what the implications would be. Okay, awesome. So then I guess it would just probably be some implications in terms of managing parallel things and so forth. So then the other question to me is, so I see that you guys offer self-hosted solutions and you offer kind of provided solutions. What's the primary difference there? So I assume when you say your own cloud stuff, that wouldn't include the database. It would just include the PowerSync layer, right?
Yes. So you would have to handle your own Postgres database, or we've got MongoDB and MySQL support now as well. But yeah, that would be on your side. And so self-hosted would be, you could host our service. We use the Sentry open source. It's actually called Fair Source. So it's not exactly open source. So I would check that out just to confirm, that it's.
But it's more open. It's more open source than WordPress at this point. So
yeah, well, it's fully open source in the sense of the code.
until you need to start paying back 8% of your revenue. Yeah. and you get okay. Sorry, PHP people, I just had to go there. Okay. So that's super interesting. So what would it be able to run on? Would it like is there like a specific type of stack or server environment that you need to run it yourself?
Well, Docker would
Is it?
be,
Okay.
just use Docker
Okay.
and then, host it on that. We've tried to make it
Okay.
as easy as possible for people and enterprises as well to host.
Okay, awesome. Then I also have some questions around kind of the conflict resolution. So so you mentioned, like, okay, cool. The default is the last read wins. You also mentioned that you're not sure whether you can get per column level of granularity or whether it just looks at the rows. That's always to me like such a pain point. And it's like like it's tough, man. Like it's but I think a large part of it is also just purely like a UI thing and a UX thing. Like, how do you communicate to a user if you do anything, or even if you do like last write wins? How do you communicate to a user why their stuff just disappeared
Just
now all of
changed.
a sudden? It's and I think, like, to me, that's kind of because I've been on this kind of like local first kind of offline thing since the early days of service workers. Since the early days, I heard about service workers, and I like, I definitely see where the value of something like PowerSync lies, because I think in the very early days, I think people were led to believe that it's a bit easier to do than it actually ends up being if you want to implement the stuff yourself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of stuff from that era, I think web components as well. Like, I think we were on this ES6 like high of like, hey, we can make the web nice now, and everyone was just like so optimistic. And same with web components is this, and then we kind of realize, oh, okay, but there's lots of caveats that now come
As there
with
always
this.
is.
Yes, which is like amazing if you can build your business model on top of that. Like, I think someone like Supabase has done the same for like kind of just like the entire backend as a service thing. Okay, that's really, really cool. What so also the other thing, Justin, you should pop in if you have questions, because I can just keep on going, just from my own curiosity. So obviously this is cool, and but it's also a lot of complexity overhead, and can be pricey. And so obviously I do it in my own personal stuff, because I just love playing around with kind of a lot of this low level browser stuff. But for clients and stuff, what would maybe be, if you're trying to sell this or you're trying to consider this, I think first and foremost, what would be a really good use case for something like this, and what would maybe be a project that's maybe not a good use case for this?
So,
I'd be curious.
So
Mhm.
I've thought about this actually quite a lot, and I would say financial, like where the local database can't be the source of truth for something. So, for example, like dealing with a bank, you need to make an API request, because the money either went through or didn't go through. So it wouldn't work
Yes.
for a card machine or something like that.
Mm.
Well, unless you hope that it would go through, but no one's going to do that. No, you're not going to go to Discom and they're going to hope that it goes through. They're going to wait for that verification that the money's been, deducted.
Yes.
And then a good use case would be, if you need to go into a mine and, or you, a nurse or something, and you
Yes.
go to like a far out place, but you need to collect a form. So that information you just collect it, and then as soon as you come back, it will just automatically upload to the server. So I would say those are really good use cases, and we've seen quite a lot of that, as well as also delivery services. We're seeing interest from those kind of companies.
Are there people that use the offline first part as secondary, but the main value is just like optimistic, reads and writes and all of that? So like your primary your primary gain is that everything happens automatically. But then the fact that you can use it offline is of secondary importance. Yeah.
I would say we get a mixed. It's some people really need the offline. Other people like that it's instantaneous.
Yes.
But generally, we see with the bigger clients that it's that offline functionality that's quite important.
Interesting.
That it
Yes.
does sync. Yeah.
And
And what we've seen as well that's really important is actually that we are open source, well, fair source in that regard,
Yes.
because people have been burned out. So, for example, MongoDB device sync, they actually deprecated recently, and that's caused a massive stir because
I
that's
didn't
not
know that.
fully open source. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's been deprecated, and now that they gave people 1 year to
Yes.
migrate. So
Sure.
we've luckily been able to step in and become one of the partners with MongoDB to actually get users over.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah,
I guess VCs want to cash out. Yeah.
But that is a concern with if you don't have something kind of open source, because people are then vendor locked in, and then you say, I'm actually going to stop the service, and then people have nowhere to go. So
so the current licensing model that you have is that you like the source, the actual source is open, so you can get all the code, right?
It's source available.
It's also available. That's the word. Yeah. Okay. But the limitations are just in terms of like how you use that, and not necessarily not having access to it. So if anyone, I guess, is like at any point they can just fork it and be like I guess so. This would be the question, obviously, and I might put you in a bit of an uncomfortable position here because like you work for PowerSync. So, but like in the case of, for example, with Redis, where like that whole debacle, and then people just forked it and they created their own free version because the original free version got kind of co-opted and whatever. Would something like that be allowed?
I'm not sure. I think that's I can't comment on that.
I won't push you for an answer on that. Like that's above your pay grade.
That's definitely chat to the. Well, I would consult the actual license, because it has been well thought out from what I've seen from Sentry's side. So I would definitely consult that and use that as like a reference point.
Yes. Who would be kind of the primary competitors here? I assume like Amplify would probably be a competitor. AWS Amplify.
We haven't really seen that, actually, to be honest. It's more so. It depends.
So sorry, you did mention Mongo, but
so they had
device. But that seems like that ship's no longer sailing.
Yeah. So that's deprecated. There's a new, really interesting one called InstantDB. So that's mainly for JS. They actually recently got, I think, series funding or seed funding. They're really cool. There's another thing called Electric SQL. They did a massive pivot now where they did a rewrite.
I think that's also a lot of people from Prisma and so forth are involved in that, if I'm not mistaken. Previous Prisma people. Or there's another one.
Sure,
but there's another one. I think it's Electric SQL, but there's another one where I know it's a lot of people that kind of were kind of like pretty crucial in kind of a Prisma actually kind of becoming involved in that.
Okay.
It's interesting. There's a lot of movement in the space at the moment.
Definitely. And there's another one that's also gotten a lot of hype. It's Zero,
I don't know,
which is also real-time syncing. It's 01 or I think I'm mistaking the name exactly, but it's Zero, and they about a release, and there's been quite a lot of hype behind them. So also another one worth looking into. for
Yes.
everyone.
So then the other question as well, and like, sorry, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I think this is the value of having someone who can respond real time. And you should tell me if I should back off. But also, like I guess like your primary customers and the people that find the most value here are like kind of B2B. Like you're probably, you mentioned like mines, or people who like have like big programs where they send out like social workers or whatever. You're not necessarily here looking at, oh, you have a dentist and the dentist needs a way to whatever, like it's what would be, is there some way to get some of this functionality from PowerSync without opting into the whole package? With like, maybe you don't need the full on CR. So here's a good example. So there might be a case where you want offline first, but you're not actually like, it's for your own personal stuff. So let's say something like your own calendar or whatever. You want to be able to use it offline, update, but you don't really care about like, like once again, like conflict resolution, whatever. There's no one else interacting with this. You don't need like real-time web sockets and stuff. You just want the offline. Is there a way to kind of selectively like get that element from PowerSync, or like what are the options there?
Well, I would point you to the free, because the free can get you quite far with something like that. If you just have a hobby, we've seen quite a lot of users actually use the free, and they've got something like that. So they've got their own personal to-do or notes or something. And then if they start getting traction, so let's say other people start using it or whatever, then they'll upgrade. But it's a pretty decent, if you've just got a small Supabase instance and you want to connect it to PowerSync, you can do that.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's really good to hear. Yeah, because I can definitely see a massive like case for. I think there's a lot of like, I don't want to say market share, because market share implies that you can monetize it. Let's just say like mind share of like tools that solve the problem where you want offline, but you're not going to be interacting with other people, like almost like you're probably familiar with Terso, right?
I'm not actually.
So it's the SQLite thing, and it's very like similar. It's like kind of like instead of one big database that like lots of people like kind of read and write and whatever, it's very nice for these type of things where you need a DB for each user, and it's just a SQLite DB, and it's super cheap and whatever, and you don't have to worry about like who gets permissions or whatever. You have your data and you have access to your data. No one else can do it, and you can go wild with your data.
And it's ephemeral, and you can.
Yes, yeah. So I'm curious, like whether, So there's definitely something here in terms of, I think we're definitely seeing like a lot of like in terms of web apps and stuff, kind of a bit of a split in terms of web apps that are meant to be collaborative and web apps that are meant to be like, oh, this is just my Google Calendar, or this is my Google Sheet, or this is my to-do list, or whatever. Or my own budgeting or finance app, or whatever. Okay, interesting.
Let's have a question on, like, to you actually, out of curiosity.
Yes.
Where do you think this is going to go? Because my idea was that we'd go, part of the app would be local first, and part of it wouldn't be. But then I think about it now, and it could be confusing for a user, because parts of it would be real time, all the time, and then as soon as there's an API call, oh, now there's a loading. Like, how do you think that will play out?
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly think like I'm a bit disappointed in terms of how little progress there's been made kind of like on the web in terms of this type of thing, in terms of just the tooling and like how, like, it almost feels like the moment you which is what's like, and this is amazing for tools like PowerSync, where like you guys offer that, but obviously you have to pay for it, but like it's like rolling a lot of that stuff yourself is like really hard and annoying, and like comes with so many foot guns. I don't know, like I don't know if you're familiar with RxDB.
Yes.
Yeah, so kind of like they seem to be also kind of doing like doing a lot of stuff in this, but they're not like providing a service. They're just providing a kind of an abstraction on top of RxJS that ends up actually fitting really nicely with this paradigm. Like I don't know where this is going to go. I just think like I do think local first is a big thing, and it's a bit disappointing that it's taken so long to really start gaining momentum. It feels like for the very first time, like it's not just some experimental random thing, that people are
Like you have
like
to
for a
fight
long time.
against a lot of the time as well.
Yeah. And so that's encouraging, but I still think we have such a long way to go. I think the main sticky points still are around authentication, because refresh tokens and stuff, and like the whole authentication system on the web is built around the fact that you have connectivity. So like on native, we have ways to authenticate without sending a request to a server and stuff like that. And there are some similar stuff in the web, but they're a nightmare to work with at the moment. So I think that is the big, and I think you guys are also hamstrung by that. Like I assume you guys also don't provide a solution to log in or create an account or whatever while you're offline.
Yeah, that's not really where we would come in. We're just more dealing with the syncing side. That would be more on the app side to decide how they want to authenticate users.
Yes. But yeah, like so I think that's still a tricky one. Is like, because what you can do is you can defer that. So you can say, okay, keep everything local until you have connectivity, and then you need to register. And then it starts syncing once you register. But also you're making a big leap of faith there in terms of that you're going to be able to actually do that. And it's tricky.
We have seen that actually, where people have a free tier per se, and that's local first. And then what happens is, if you want to be able to sync the information or have it cross, like have collaborators or something like that, then you have to sign up, and then you'll have to have connectivity to register an account. And we are definitely seeing people going that way.
Yes. I think the only scary part about that is like a lot of the browsers, I won't name any because I said I'm going to stop talking ill of Safari. Is like they really like play it like loose and fast in terms of what they persist and how long they persisted, and actually, like, just it would be so amazing if they just give a mechanism by which you can alert a user, hey, listen, we're about to run out of storage. But not even that's possible. It's just like, oh, random shit are just disappearing, and there's not even any logic to it. It's not even okay. The older stuff disappears. Yeah, and I think that's annoying. Is that like you're kind of at the mercy of browser vendors, which is like why I think at this point it's always going to be when we talk about offline first, it's always going to be about syncing, like that's always going to be. It's like we're never going to talk about offline only. For now,
that makes sense.
It's always going to be with the intent that it should be synced, which kind of sucks. But like we're kind of at the mercy of browser vendors there. So but I do think there's really a lot of fertile ground still here, and I think we're only at the beginning of the journey. Which
that's what we're seeing.
Yeah,
definitely. The uptake is growing steadily, and that's why we don't even look at the competitors as a potential problem. It's just because we just see the landscape growing so much.
Yeah, there's not enough solutions to satisfy all the people that have problems. Yeah. Have you? I'm also curious. Have you played? Are you familiar with Convex?
I'm not.
Okay, so Justin, you know Convex, right?
Oh. Yes, I've worked with it quite a bit, just on my own personal.
I'm so in love with Convex. Like I love Supabase, but like, oh man, I love Supabase like in terms of like what they are doing, and kind of the approach they take and so forth. But in terms of developer experience, man, Convex. Yeah, so I'd be
So it's
curious how
Convex
it
like
works.
Supabase.
Yes, but it has its own DB. It's closer to Firebase.
Okay.
So yeah, it's kind of like Supabase with Prisma built in, basically. That's effectively what it is. So you define your schema and everything. So I guess like PowerSync relies on you having direct access to the DB connection, right?
Well, yeah, the write-ahead log for Postgres, and then the MongoDB
Okay.
stream. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so there's also no way to make use of PowerSync if you don't control the DB. So,
Well, unless they've set it automatically, to have the write-ahead
yes.
log, for example. Yeah, we have seen that with certain backend as a services where
Yes.
they turn that off or they don't
Okay.
enable it, and the user can't actually change it on their side. And then, unfortunately, they can't. It won't work with our service.
So I'm specifically thinking about a specific project that I'm working on that uses Django REST API, and so there's obviously a lot of it happens through like actual functions and stuff that you don't. A lot of it is abstracted behind endpoints that you call, and it's not as straightforward as just like CRUD, full on CRUD. Like, is there any how easy would it be to integrate with something like that, or do you need like full on write access to the DB? There's no way that you can like infer it based on specific endpoints or so forth.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah, because so we don't need write access to the DB because we don't actually write to the database. That happens from your So in the example,
okay.
Supabase was actually writing to the database. So we read from the database, but the user would write to either the backend, so in your case, your Django app, and then you would handle how it gets onto the database. All we need to do is be able to access the write-ahead log so that we can read from it to stream the changes down.
Okay. So the mutations like fire from the client side, correct?
Yeah. So you would, and the reason that we do it like that is so you have full control of how it's going to interact with your database. We don't need any access to your
because what I thought it queued it in PowerSync itself, and then PowerSync did it. So
no. So it queues it on the actual client-side device, and it handles. Yeah.
Okay. So client-side, PowerSync mostly does the heavy lifting in terms of the reading.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
And then syncs with your database of choice. Yeah.
Yes.
When you're online.
Okay.
Have you looked at like PartsDB and things like that? Have those ever come across as a way of which are like local first databases?
I think we have looked at it, but we've kind of focused on, the main fish, I guess you could say, for now. And, so we are expanding as we go. So we started with Postgres, and that was kind of the main for a while. Then the MongoDB opportunity came, so we jumped on that, and we were already working on MySQL. So that's also in alpha now. And the next one, if I'm not mistaken, is MS SQL. So for the Microsoft users,
Nice. Yeah. Then I think that leads into another question is so Justin mentioned Pouch and so forth. One thing that I've never liked, so there's a lot of these services like Dexy as well, which provide their own cloud thing. So they have a library and then you can use their cloud thing. One thing that I don't like about them is just how specific they are, circumstantial they are to that specific tooling. What I like about PowerSync is that you don't need to use the PowerSync trademarked database, which is what a lot of those tools kind of force you into. That's really cool. The WA SQLite, is that something that you guys wrote from scratch, or is it built on something or forked from something else?
It's forked. So there's actually a repo called WA SQLite, and we forked that repo and made some adjustments so that it worked nicely with.
Works with
yeah.
your product. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's really cool. Yeah, then the other question is native. What's the story in terms of native support, like
Yeah,
like mobile
so
apps and stuff?
so we fully React Native. We've got full React Native support.
Nice.
We've got Kotlin support. So Kotlin's in beta. So Kotlin
Mm.
multi-platform is in beta,
Mhm.
and that also works with Kotlin native. So and then
Nice.
we've got a Swift SDK in alpha,
Mm.
and Flutter as
Nice.
well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I was waiting for that Flutter one to drop.
yeah, Flutter was actually the first one. Our first
Yeah, I would
SDK was
imagine
in
so.
Flutter, and then
Yeah.
we went to JavaScript, and
Yeah. Yeah. How easy is this to integrate the things like Electron and so forth?
So
Like, is
we've
that
got
something that you see?
examples.
Mhm.
We've got examples of it. It's not native, so
Yeah.
it's actually just the web. It's using a web.
Yes, wrapper.
Yeah, wrap.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
we do have
Yeah.
examples in the JS repo. So there's a PowerSync JS repo, and there's
Cool.
examples of Electron and capacitor as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I guess maybe the drawback there would be, I don't know if you know, but I guess it would also be the same thing where it only syncs if it's open. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think that about covers it from my side. Justin, I don't know if you have anything else.
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything I had as well, Skulk. You anticipated a lot of my questions.
Yeah. Let me maybe end with this thing. Do you think local first is gonna, in the same way that, like, so kind of local first is kind of like a hint to this idea of mobile first, I would assume it's kind of a nod to the notion of mobile first. It's kind of like forcing us to rethink what we think is the default mode of something. So
Yeah.
for a very long time, the default would be desktop, and then you would have a M dot whatever for your mobile version of your site or whatever. So do you think that and that was eventually vindicated, nowadays, like, the majority of people using the web are using it on the mobile devices, and desktop's actually secondary, despite what a lot of office workers and tech workers like ourselves would think, because we work on computers. My mom, my sister, my dad, everyone just uses the internet from their phone. Do you think we're going to see something similar in local first? Would you say that you think at some point it's going to become the default, and like having to be online all the time is going to become the exception? And if so, what would be your kind of timeline on that? Like, this is a really dangerous question, and it's like it's just very speculative, but I'm curious. And my answer might change depending on when in my life you ask me, but yeah, I'm curious whether you think this is going to become the dominant paradigm eventually, and yeah, like, what would that path look like?
I think it will depend on the use case, to be honest. I think the kind of the frontline services, or where it's not critical that I get an API response now, will all move to local first. That would make the most sense to me. And then things like banking, that won't change. I don't see that changing, just because if there's money involved, you need to know if this worked or didn't work. You can't retry it and wait and hope and retry and wait. So I think that's what's going to happen, is it will optimize a lot of apps, or a lot of parts of the app, but it won't be able to take over all of the apps. It won't be able to, like, I don't think you'll see a lot of just only local first apps. I don't see that happening, but I see what we've seen as well is that a lot of people use this for state management. So they'll actually, because you've now got the SQLite database, you don't need Redux or something. That's all it's doing, right? It's just keeping it in your local storage. So I think that's what's going to happen, is it's going to be this added benefit of state management, but then I've also got local first by design and real-time syncing, all just built into it. And I think that's what's actually going to happen, is it's more just the the value is going to be there to use it. And these tools are making it so easy to implement that it's going to be a no-brainer, you know, to have these things in your app. And then it's just a bonus that it's offline and, you know, all of that.
Yeah. And so like, so the I haven't played around with the WA SQLite. Is that like, can you do subscriptions with that? So you can like, I guess you can subscribe and then, you know, actually keep your data in sync.
What do you mean with like?
So
the
obviously,
backend
so
service,
do you intentionally read and write from it, or can you actually subscribe to data in it? I assume like you need to for Journey apps, for PowerSync, because that's kind of like the selling point here. But by default, the actual without PowerSync, do you know if the SQLite like library itself supports like subscribing like with a hook or something to a value, and it's just automatically
I'm
keeping it in
not
sync?
sure.
Is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
So yeah, I would be lying if I said I knew.
Because I'm just curious whether that subscription happens like on the PowerSync side or on the actual like WA SQLite side. Okay, interesting. Okay, yeah, but like I'm already probably digging way too deep here, just like for my own curiosity. But this was amazing. Thanks so much, Dominic. Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys found it useful.
Yeah, as I said, I was only planning on
definitely.
staying for the beginning, and you know, here we are. I'm gonna have a late night though. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Do you want to end us off, Justin?
Yeah, just to say thanks again to Dominic for coming back and taking us through that. It's always really great to see like a bit of code come together in a live stream. It's I think it's great for anyone who watches it. Yeah, so really interesting stuff. So thanks for that. Keep an eye on the meetup. We'll be publishing forthcoming streams, and then also don't forget to join our Discord. Yeah.
And the PowerSync.
Sorry.
And the PowerSync one.
And the PowerSync one. Yes. Join all the Discords. Yeah. We've moved away from the ZATech Slack and we're running everything via our own Discord instance now. So everyone could join that. That would be great. If you're on Meetup, we did send a mail out to everyone with all the relevant things.
Also, just
and I think that's it.
Yeah, just another quick thing. So next week is UX South Africa. We are actually running a FEDSA track there as well, with a lot of speakers talking about kind of the intersection of design and front-end development. And kind of those spaces where designers and developers work together. So if you're interested in that, you can check out UX South Africa. I think there's still some tickets available. I think it closes on Thursday. And if you're going anyway, come say hi to me. I'll probably be around and like kind of, I'm very loud and very tall, so you'll spot me very easily. Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Dominic.
Thanks all.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye.